With an accusation leveled against a legend and more, this is Wrestling Rambles. My name is John, and you're watching the Wrestling Report. Before we move on, make sure you subscribe to Wrestling Rambles with notifications on, and don't forget to like the video. Revealing the backstage reaction to him pinning Randy Orton on SmackDown, Carmelo Hayes said this to Sportskeeda Wrestling. Yeah, I can tell you a lot of people are looking at me differently now, in a good way. A lot of people on the outside are giving me more credibility and respect, as they should. I'm even getting free food at the airports now, you know what I mean? These little things, like a couple of kids talking to me about it, I tell them to spread the word, tell their friends. So Toronto knows about it. It was a big deal and a big moment for me, but most importantly, sometimes just being in the ring with someone like Randy Orton, someone I watched as a kid, is super cool. Given his absence from AEW due to health issues, Kenny Omega was mentioned by Ringside News, who wrote that Kenny Omega's anticipated tag team partnership with Chris Jericho for the AEW World Tag Team Championships was derailed by his battle with diverticulitis, a serious medical condition that he immediately had to address. Following his surgery, we now have an update on his in-ring return status. On the May 1st episode of AEW Dynamite, Kenny Omega made his first appearance since December. He discussed his recovery from diverticulitis before the Elite, including the Young Bucks, Jack Perry, and Kazuchika Okada, launched a surprise attack, and he was written off AEW television. Kenny Omega would then undergo surgery for his condition and is currently on the road to recovery. Naturally, fans are now wondering when Kenny Omega will be able to make his in-ring return. While speaking on Fightful Select's Q&A podcast, Sean Ross Sapp was asked about Kenny Omega's in-ring return status. He reported that Omega is not expected to be back on AEW television in the coming months, adding that everything was unforeseen and that he needs to recover, get in shape, and then train for an in-ring return as well. Not expected back in the coming months or anything like that. He did have the surgery in order to check how things are progressing. This was something completely unforeseen, but knowing Kenny, he has got to heal up, get in shape, then get into ring shape as well. Omega also hinted at a potential reinvention of his persona upon his return to the ring, indicating a desire for a change in his gimmick. Accusing Mercedes Mone of manipulating AEW President Tony Khan, Dutch Mantel said this on his Storytime podcast. I guess from what I'm hearing, I don't think Mercedes Mone is making all that money that she claims she's making, or it's reported she's making. Maybe because Tony Khan's got more money than he's got sense at this point. She is not turning any numbers. I don't think anybody over there is turning the numbers that could quantify their paycheck. She's turning channels to other channels when she's on. She lost the fans almost immediately because I think she's just so intrinsically unlikable that she can't hide it, and she may not even have the self-awareness. And okay, if anybody tells her you need to stop this, she's not going to listen to them. She is better than AEW combined just herself. If some producer comes up to her and tells her, can you stop that? Even if Tony Khan comes up to her and tells her to stop doing something, she will talk to him. She'll show him respect, but she'll talk him into allowing her to do it. So I don't see what we want to do in wrestling is create interest. She's creating disinterest. When she comes out there, a lot of people said they may not turn the channel, but they may turn their brain off when she comes out. Recalling his tribute promo to Bray Wyatt, LA Knight told Adrian Hernandez, I needed to go out and talk about him while also keeping the business moving and not disrespecting at the same time. So finding that happy medium, I needed to ask for a lot of freedom. Hey, if I'm going to do this, I need to do it this way and let me just go out there and riff. Thankfully, they were able to let me do that, and that's what I did. I think we came out with a pretty good thing. For me, there was a lot of meaning behind that because, again, it was one of my pretty much major turning points where it was like, alright, sink or swim. I can either go here or just be a guy who's just in a thing, or I can be a guy who's going to make a real impression with another guy who was a major mainstay in the business. Touching on WWE cutting back on live events for this summer, Dave Meltzer said this in the Wrestling Observer Daily Update. WWE has cut way back this summer on house shows as well as NXT shows. There are only a few main roster house shows this summer and only 5 NXT house shows this summer. Giving his perspective on the WWE documentary on WrestleMania 40, former WWE star Matt Morgan told the Gigantic Pop podcast, "It was all stuff we heard Cody Rhodes say, we've heard Triple H say, we've heard Rock say. There was no news out of this. So it tells me they waited almost 3 months because they were editing some of the more sizzle component of it, where I'm sure they had video footage of Rock coming back going like, what the F, they're booing me, what kind of is this? Maybe, that kind of stuff. I know it sounds unprofessional, but that's what I was led to believe we'd see in this documentary of a butthurt Rock selling, and he did not sell. He tries to spin it and act like he saved WrestleMania." Talking about AEW's process for developing new stars, Jeff Jarrett said this on the Battleground podcast. When you think about that, you're talking about the evolution of developing talent. Well, the business continues to evolve. You see our guys, not that Jon Moxley needs reps, but he just went to Japan. You see us working with CMLL. I'm currently going down to AAA in Mexico. Like I just said, the relationships with New Japan Pro Wrestling. Our talent are exposed. The Ring of Honor brand. To take it a step further down from that is the different independents. There is an independent promotion in Cleveland that I'm currently working with. Guys have their opportunities. When you mirror it, because I think we've come from an era of, I'll call it late 90s, that when there was really too big and how the business was, you either work for one or the other. Those days are truly in the rear view mirror. So now you kind of look at the opportunities and you kind of look at the music business. It used to be, 3, 4, maybe 5 labels in the music industry ran not just Nashville, but New York and LA. You were on one of the big 3, one of the big 5. That's how you got your music break. Those days are gone. So all forms of entertainment, whether it's music, whether it's truly comedy, wrestling, it doesn't really matter. Again, it goes back to what we carry around in our pockets with the different apps. You can expose yourself to your audience in a major way. I think that's what talent have to have the mindset. I think it all starts doing the ears with talent on how do they want to become successful. Emotionally engage with your audience. It drills where I say that often on my podcast. How does the talent grow their fan base? It's all through emotional connection. Prior to the Money in the Bank Premium Live event, Liv Morgan received a Daddy Dom chant from fans. Speaking about his health, following a recent visit to the emergency room, Jim Ross noted on his Grilling JR podcast, "I had a respiratory infection and had to deal with shortness of breath, but I got past it. Living just a few minutes from the hospital in Jacksonville Beach was helpful. It's been a challenging week, having just returned from Oklahoma where I spent time in the hospital. Now I'm back in Jacksonville, as you can see from my backdrop. I like being busy and feel insecure if I'm not contributing to my cause, so I keep myself occupied. Despite everything, I had a good time in Long Island." Going over the travel arrangements in both WWE and AEW, Chris Jericho said this to Neil Brennan. "When I was working in WWE, sometimes we worked Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and maybe even a Tuesday once in a while. That schedule was insane, absolutely crazy. Different city, driving, renting your own cars, all that sort of stuff. When AEW started, that was one of the things we only work on Wednesdays. Now we work work Wednesdays and Saturdays, but still, it's much better. Our boss, the Khan family, they also own the Jacksonville Jaguars and Fulham Football Club in England, so they treat us much more like an athletic team. We get much better care with hotels, cars, all that stuff is taken care of, which wasn't the case in WWE. That makes travel a lot easier. Plus, the fact that you're only flying into one city, flying out the next day is a lot better than flying to one city on a Friday, picking up a car, driving 250 miles somewhere on Saturday, then driving another 200 miles somewhere on Sunday, and driving somewhere else 250 miles to get there Monday, returning your car Tuesday in a city that's like 15 freaking states from where you got it, and you gotta pay for it all. Sticking with Chris Jericho, he said this about the crowd response he received at Arena Mexico for his debut in CMLL nearly 2 decades ago. The thing I liked the best was just going there on a normal Friday night. They had about 12,000 people there, which is amazing. The fans are just happy. They're just excited. They cheer for the good guys and they boo the bad guys. And they're not chanting, "You effed up," and they're not worried about how many tickets were sold or what the television ratings were, giving out star ratings, whatever it was. They were just enjoying the show. It was such a refresher for me, and I really am glad that I did it. Once again, it kind of is something from the Chris Jericho trope. You've got people that are chanting, "Please retire," which is great. And here I got in Mexico, and it's the #1 thing in wrestling. It was on the cover of all the magazines, and I think there's probably 15 articles on all the different wrestling sites and sports sites that Jericho had returned. So it's a big deal. It was going to be a great time to go there, and it gave me more momentum and excitement to come back. It's just good to know that this worldwide history that I have, I can go back to it at any time, and now is the perfect time to go back to it. So muchos gracias, Arena Mexico, and we will see everybody there very soon. Mentioning a scary situation for a Japanese pro wrestling legend, Manchidori wrote on X, "A serious accident occurred with Minoru Suzuki during Tenryu Project's main event today, and the match was cancelled by the referee. He was taken to an emergency hospital. He was found to have no bleeding in his head or anywhere else and was diagnosed with a concussion." Suzuki then said, "I'll report it for now. I did a CT scan and other tests, but there were no particular problems. I was kicked out of the hospital with a 'if you're feeling fine, go home' feeling. I remember everything. I even remember how I fell at the end. So there's no need to worry. For now, I'll just say one thing. If I see you again, I'll beat you all up." Touching on Hulk Hogan's past and a recent allegation thrown his way, Ringside News noted that WWE Hall of Famer Hulk Hogan, one of the most influential figures in the professional wrestling industry, has faced numerous controversies throughout his career. His legacy, already tarnished by past issues with racism, is now under further scrutiny due to new accusations of discriminatory behavior. In 2015, Hogan's reputation took a severe hit when tapes containing his racist remarks were leaked to the public. The recordings made by his former friend Todd Clem, Bubba the Love Sponge, captured Hogan using racial slurs while discussing his daughter Brooke's ex-boyfriend. This scandal led to WWE terminating his contract and temporarily removing him from their history books. Hogan issued an apology for his remarks and pursued legal action against Gawker, the media outlet that published excerpts of the tape. Despite his efforts, the damage to his reputation has been significant and long-lasting. Recently, Hogan has been accused of firing an ambassador due to their ethnicity. Essence Janai, an influencer, took to TikTok to reveal that Hogan paid her to be an ambassador for his Real American beer, but fired her the next day after discovering she is black. The video included photos of Janai with Hogan and a caption expressing her disappointment. "Hulk Hogan, thanks for making clear that you don't work with black brand ambassadors." And this was your Pro Wrestling News Update. I hope you're all having a great day. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see y'all later.